welcome. We are live. It is the 30th episode of the Anarchimedes show, and it is December 9th, 2024 at 5:20 a.m. here in the land of the burning sun. Well, I didn't even know if this episode was going to happen this morning. Of course, everything here is unscripted, unrehearsed, and we do what we want within the confines of YouTube's rules. But just a lot of things going on that doesn't know if I was feeling it today. Just not feeling the love. Some news yesterday that shook me up a little bit. Not sure what's going to happen with certain things, but regardless, life goes on. The world keeps on spinning. We do what we can on our show. And I didn't want to leave my friends and followers high and dry. What's going on? Why isn't there any content coming out? In any case, let's get Scully back there going. The thing I've been looking forward to. You can see back there behind me, if you tuned into last episode, there was a bunch of computer stuff back there. It is still here. We are still building Totsy's computer. The ring light back there now has the cam attached, but we are waiting for a active USB extension cable to hook that up. It's just too far away from the monolith for the USB signal to travel without assistance. So we'll be getting an active repeater extension cable to get back there to the cam so we can do that build. I was hoping that would be in today, but of course I believe it's saying, yeah, sometime today by 10 p.m. So I was hoping to do that stream this afternoon, but we'll see. Stay tuned. If it comes in sometime today, maybe it'll arrive in the middle of the day and we can get that cam hooked up and be ready to go. And yeah, so we are going to just jump in. We're going to load up some Tomb Raider here. Last time I wanted to just do some random thoughts and musings. We just went with some Tomb Raider. Oh, not that one. That was not the one I wanted to launch. We are not playing this Tomb Raider. We are playing Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered. Oh, okay, we have a small problem there. A small problem. I didn't think I had installed that on the wrong drive. Oh my goodness. We have a small problem. I don't even have the drive that I pulled for Totsy's build had Tomb Raider installed on it. Okay. Well, okay then. Do we want to play a different game or should we just call it? Random thoughts and musings. Maybe some Tomb Raider. You know, it's interesting. So this is a chance to practice some stuff. Oh, we're looking at my feed. Let's jump back to the main cam here. There we go. We're going a little off the rails. This video is going a little off the rails. Oh well. No Tomb Raider. Vector, I'd just throw up some Vector and play some Vector, but yeah, this video went really off the rails. Just because I wasn't sure if I, like I said, if I was going to do this video. Random thoughts. One of the thoughts that I've been having recently around memory being agential, meaning that it has agency, it has the ability to dictate the course, to steer its own course, so to speak. We often think of the brain as being agential to memory. And I really like that science is proving now that memory is more agential, if I'm saying it correctly. And that the brain is not. And I think this goes very good along with the computer analogy that I've always liked to use. And this is how I kind of came to this conclusion on my own. If the brain is like the CPU of a computer, the central processing unit, the central processing unit, without not which the computer will not work. Okay, kill the brain, kill the zombie. It is the brain, but it doesn't do anything of its own accord. It follows commands. You give it a command, and it translates that command to workable signals for the computer and its component parts. It doesn't really do anything. It's the go-between. It's the translator. For the software. The software is what runs the show. The CPU doesn't drive the bus. Anyway, so the memory that we have, the software, those things that have been programmed into the computer. And then we're getting into some deeper analogies here. And this tests everyone's symbolic literacy with some figurative speech. You have the CPU, the brain. You have the software. You have the hardware, and you have the software. So you have the software, which really is what allows all of this to happen on a computer. There is a little bit of firmware built into the hardware. Yes, right. You can get into the BIOS. You can do some manipulation of the machine on a really basic level. It does have its own. The hardware has its own requirements. It's power consumption. It's things that it needs to happen. Things that have to be upkept for it to keep working properly. The hardware. But without the software, it's just a shell. Without an operating system installed, without some kind of software. And then, of course, the more software, the more robust software you can install on there, the more robust system you might have. But without that software being installed, you've got a fancy paperweight. If memory is the software that's been coded in, And memory happens as we live our lives. We take in all of this information, and then we. This is the interesting thing. This is where memory may be agential, or where you want to, however you want to describe it. Um, if you want to, it's consciousness, mind, spirit, however you want. There is this point of choice, of agency that can be exercised. And even though we just experience these things getting thrown at us, and we have some manipulation over our external environment, all this stuff is thrown at us. We just take it in, and then we of choice give it meaning and assign value to certain things, certain values to certain things, and then we do, and then when we do that instantaneously as we take this stuff in, we run it through our filters, our screens, our lenses, however you want to describe it. It becomes our reality to us, our interpretation of reality. I would prefer to put it that way, because real is real, and then we interpret it. But we take all that in, and then we can manipulate it later. We can go back to our previous memories and say, you know what, with some work, this isn't what I meant it, what I have had it mean for however long. Now I'm going to make it mean this. And we have that point of being able to reprogram on the fly. I don't know how much we can update our firmware. There's probably some of that too. We can do somewhat within the confines of our firmware without breaking our system. Well, our software, we're updating on the fly, if we're conscious of it. A lot of us just go through life on default settings. But looking at that for myself, trying to reframe some things that have just happened, put them in a different perspective. Reprogramming on the fly. Updating code. We are the coders. We are also the gardeners. Which brings up another interesting point. What are we? What are we? We have this consciousness, this ability to choose and give meaning. We have the ability, for most of us, to act independently, to move about. We're not restrained. I'm not in a straitjacket. I live in a fairly free society. I can get out and walk outside, go down the street. We have this ability to act. Not everything does. Or does it? That could be an interesting thing. Imagine that the Earth is sentient. It just moves at a much slower pace than we do. No. Are we aware of the microorganisms that exist upon us? Even if we are aware of them and try to communicate with them, can we do it? I don't know. Oddball thoughts. Dark bridge. I'll hit on that sometime in a later episode. I don't have any of the material in front of me to talk about Dark Bridge today. And that possible conspiracy theory. I got the title perfect. Tomb Raider? No Tomb Raider today. We already started the stream. We are plunging right in. So we have this ability to act. We have the ability to manipulate, to act upon other things, and I think there's where the issue comes in. Another thought that I've been having at work. We don't talk about work here, but the thought of, and it has to do with things that act and things that act upon, to be acted upon. For instance, you've heard the term, you manage things, you lead people. Why? And we run into problems when we treat people as things to manage. Things that are made to act and things that are made to be acted upon. If you know where that saying comes from, you get a little more insight into me. But that begs the question then, I think the best way I've heard it described at one point. Because are we creation? Are we something that was created or came into being? Or are we by some fashioning? Or are we offspring? Something that was birthed? Because there is a difference. Things to act and things to be acted upon. What's driving the bus, the hardware or the software? You take an acorn, or take a creation. Let's take a creation. Here's my Speed Champions Lego Porsche 911. I love the 911. I love Porsches. This is a creation. Now I've created other things more real than this. Is from a kit. I used to be a fabricator, custom builder. I've created, sculpted, shaped, molded. And my creations I love. Always sad to see them go away to someone, a customer or a buyer. Hoping that they'll be well taken care of. But I don't feel the same way about them as I do about my kids. A creation has function, it can do things, it has some design behind it, it can be a marvelous thing, a very complex and ingenious structure, design, whatever you want to call it. But that its potential is limited. Okay, its potential is limited. It can operate somewhat independently. You put this thing in gear, it'll go down and jump out of the car. It'll go idle itself down the road. But its potential, its ability to go progress further, is limited unless exercised with an outside influence upon it. An acorn, what's its potential? Can a 911 Carrera, a Porsche 911 Carrera, can it reproduce itself? Can an acorn reproduce itself? And how many times can it do that? Given the proper environment, of course. Some outside, some people are, well, it's outside influence. Yeah, but I would argue then with the same people, was there any intelligent outside influence? Was there intelligence involved in its influence? If you really want to get into it, then start talking about memory existing as a field rather than as a substance, so to speak. An acorn has the potential to become an oak tree and produce thousands and thousands of more acorns. Because it's an offspring. And that's doesn't an oak tree have, an acorn, an oak tree have the ability to act upon? That's an interesting thing. Look in Lord of the Rings, the trees in Fangorn did. Random thoughts. This video is going to be weird. Yeah. Offspring versus creation. What are we? What is our potential? Everything, of course, is limited somewhat by its nature, by its design. An oak tree will never become a fish. An acorn will never become a fish. Well, and I say that with a slight asterisk, a caveat there. Because right now, there is no conceivable way that an acorn could become a fish. But that does not rule out its possibility, just because I cannot conceive of it with my feeble mind. And I think there's a little bit of arrogance in science that way. Just because we cannot conceive of it with our feeble mind, we rule it out. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But who of us does? So yeah, I like the computer analogy. Hardware versus software. If you can disconnect a lot of portions of the computer, but certain things, if you remove them, the computer will not work. But those are not, and even though those things are essential, are they what really make the computer the computer? And you're part of it, like, well, yes, but in the same instance, no. If I took your home computer that you are sitting here watching this on, I assume most people are watching this on some version of Windows. But if we took that computer that you're sitting there on your Windows 10 or Windows 11 computer watching this video, and we scrubbed its hard drive, and we installed Linux, instead. And all your programs we reinstalled with Linux, as close as we could, the Linux equivalent, or a Linux equivalent. Would it still be your computer? I mean, in a physical sense, yes, but in a real sense of this is the computer that you've been using and are used to and are familiar with and how it functions and works, its interface. No, it's not the same computer. So it's a combination. Or is it? I'll leave that up to you. What is it? I'm just posing questions and thoughts here. It's a combination of the hardware and the software. But we tend to interact through the hardware with the software. Random thoughts. Conceptual ideas that exist because of language. That we have a language where we can discuss concepts, things that don't exist. We can bring things that don't exist into almost a physical reality. Look at money. Look at what we've done with the concept of money and exchange of labor. Yeah, it's disgusting. Really, if you think about it. I have now, by virtue of this idea, this concept, this thing that doesn't even exist in real time and space, it's just conceptual. I am now going to place a value of worth on you as a being and your efforts. And some people will be like, well, yeah, it's my right to put that judgment on someone. Yeah, I'll put it on you and we can continue living in that kind of a society. By saying, this is how much you are worth an hour. This is how much I am willing to pay you for your work, for your labor. And some of us are willing to trade that for less than others, and some of us aren't willing to trade it for anything but the absolute most amount we can get for it. But we're still willing to trade it. And we live in a society that has developed to the point that we have to. How much of what we work and earn goes just to pay someone the right to exist. Pay my taxes and pay the electric bill and pay the water bill so I have the ability to have clean water. And I can understand paying your fair share for a commonly used utility, a common use utility, but an essential utility nonetheless. And we're going to say, in order for you to access this, you need to provide labor somewhere for a certain amount. But that's not judged by anyone but, I don't know. You can draw your own conclusions. Dark Bridge, yeah. Oh, this video, this stream, off the rails. Yeah, I'll have to go back and re-edit the description a little bit. This would be like Tomb Raider? No. Oh, so much for the Monday morning stream. Reprogramming on the fly. Altering code. Updating the software. Also trying to stop and take time to maintain the hardware. Blow out the dust. Well, there are some thoughts to ponder upon. See where your brain takes you this morning, today. So, until next time, I am Anarchimedes, signing off.